Kalofalahiatu, good evening and welcome to our bulletin of BCN News for tonight. Leading the news tonight, the first vaccination rollout of the Pfizer vaccine on the island was held today at the UFO hospital. It started with a word of prayer by the president of the Ecclesia Niue, Reverend Nuka Tawevihi. The vaccination started at 1 p.m. today. The first people to be vaccinated on the island were the Minister of Health, Honourable Sauni Tongatule, followed by the New Zealand Deputy High Commissioner Nigel Eales. The President of the Ecclesia Niue, Reverend Nuka Tawevihi, was next, followed by the Acting Director General of the Ministry of Social Services, Moira Enetama. The vaccine doses were administered today by Dr. Waimanu Pulu and the Head of Public Health, Griselda Mokoia. The hospital courtyard is converted into a vaccination centre with several booths set up. People will first be screened, testing for your blood pressure, your temperature and general health before you move on to receive the jab on your arm. Other senior public servants receiving their first jab today included the Director of Education, Berfatonga Hai, Chief of Police Tim Wilson and the Head of the National Disaster Management Office, Robin Heko. Frontliners and hospital staff also received their vaccine today. After you receive your jab, you will wait in a designated area to be observed for any side effects. As you leave the vaccination centre, you are given a certificate which says that you've been vaccinated. A much larger consignment of the vaccine will arrive next week on June 8th, after which the public rollout of the vaccine will then commence. The third consignment, carrying the final Pfizer doses to complete the first phase of the vaccination rollout, will arrive on the 15th of June. And if you haven't yet registered to receive the vaccine, you can contact the UFO hospital to register for that. In our other major news, the government's new budget estimates was tabled at the Whanokepule yesterday. The government's expenditure from the 1st of July 2021 until 30th June 2022 is $33.5 million. The government is expected to generate revenue of $28.2 million, a budget deficit of $4.7 million. Here's more on the budget. Minister of Finance Honourable Crosley Tatui presented the government's budget to the Whanokepule yesterday as the annual appropriations bill for 2021-2022. The bill passed its first two readings and is referred to the Public Accounts Committee before it is taken back to the Whānau for the third and final reading. The government's expenditure from 1st July 2021 to 30th June 2022 is $33.5 million. That budget is broken down into the following areas: $15.6 million for personnel, $5 million for pension and welfare budget, $12 million will cover operational budget, and $900,000 for investment and development. The government intends to generate revenue of $28.2 million, $7.5 million from the New Zealand government as direct budget support. The government intends to collect $18.3 million from domestic revenue from various sources and $3 million from proposed COVID response funds.
Four key goals of the current budget going forward. Number one is on the COVID-19 response and plans for us to be free from COVID-19, notwithstanding that the implications and the impacts on the economy is important. So the second goal is economic management and rebuilding. The third important goal is on sustainable development. That's looking at maintaining the infrastructural development construction projects that will allow employment for some of our people, continue to care for the environment, to make sure that the policies are balanced and have a balancing effect. And the fourth and important goal is good governance. There's really a need to conform with the principles and values of the Constitution and the laws of Niue. Everyone should abide by the laws. And if we work dutifully and honestly, I think it helps towards the COVID-19 problems and challenges we are facing right now.
The Minister of Finance says that there is a need to do educational discussions and awareness of this budget to help those in the private sector and other NGO groups better understand the goals of this budget before the final reading at the Whanokepule. The Minister says that the government is looking to review some existing fiscal policies, but are cautious not to cripple the economy.
And that's why the formulation of the current budget is fairly tricky and difficult. We do not want to cripple the economy by making harsh decisions, so we need to weigh out the pros and cons to ensure that we don't do anything extreme and costly for the economy and for our lives.
BCN News will continue to cover the budget and the implications of the proposed estimates over the next few weeks until the government's appropriations bill is passed by the Whanokepule. The government this afternoon launched NU 131, the new nautical chart of Niue and Beveridge Reef. This is the first official chart of Beveridge Reef, published as NU 131, replacing NZ 845, which was published in 2019. Here's more. The nautical chart NU 131 was published in April this year by Toitu Te Whenua Land Information New Zealand, Niue's primary charting authority. The modernisation of this nautical chart for Niue was made possible through the assistance of the Pacific Navigation Initiative, a project funded by the New Zealand Aid Programme, which focuses on navigation-related aspects of maritime safety. The Minister of Infrastructure, Honourable Crossley Tatui, acknowledged the Government of New Zealand's funding and also the Toitu Te Whenua Land Information New Zealand for their technical expertise. A statement from the government says that nautical charts are necessary for safe navigation and helps Niue meet its obligations under international maritime regulations. In the statement, Minister Crossley Tatui says that NU 131 will certainly help protect the Niue Moana Mahu Marine Protected Area and the Beveridge Reef Nukutulueatama Special Management Area, a commitment of 40% of Niue's exclusive economic zone as a marine protected area. Minister Tatui says that Niue's international cooperation in hydrography aligns with our Niue National Strategic Plan 2016 to 2026 to provide and maintain safe, secure and reliable transport infrastructure and services at international standards and prepared to respond to national disasters and emergencies. At the launch today, charts were distributed to the Departments of Transport, Justice, Lands and Survey, Niue Police Department, Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries and other relevant stakeholders. The government is also very close to securing a national superannuation scheme, as announced by Premier Tangilangi at the Whanokepule yesterday. Premier Tangilangi says that he is hoping that this will be ready by the end of this year. Yesterday, Premier Tangilangi announced at the Whanokepule that he is pleased with the work that's gone into finding a suitable superannuation scheme for Niue, which will also be available to the private sector. Premier Tangilangi told the whānau that after months of working on this and consulting with some of our neighbouring countries, the government is confident that a superannuation scheme for Niue will be ready, hopefully by the end of this year. BCN News revealed in 2019 that more than 100 public servants were working without superannuation cover. According to the Secretariat of the Public Service Commission at the time, the last government super scheme ended in 2015. After questions from BCN News at that time, the former government of the late Sir Toke Talangi said that they had started working on securing a new scheme and that the Crown Law Office was tasked to proceed with this, to look for a scheme that will cover both public servants and those in the private sector. And for those firearm users on the island, Cabinet this week approved the sale of ammunition for this month, but only for those firearm owners who've paid their annual gun registrations. Here's more on that story. Earlier this week, through a press release from the Police Department announcing that Cabinet had approved the sale of ammunition starting from the 1st of June through to the 30th of June. Only registered firearm owners who've paid their annual firearms registration are eligible to purchase the ammunitions, limited to 4 packets per licensed firearm user. The ammunitions are available from the Police Department and have been in storage for about 5 years since they were purchased. The new police wish to remind all those who have not yet paid their annual firearms registration to visit the police department and register your firearm. And that's our bulletin of BCN News for this Thursday. You have a lovely weekend and join me again on Tuesday night for our bulletin in Wangahau Niue. Until then, good night.